here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
You know, this is the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
Is anyone at home?
Oh, that must be my mother.
Is anything wrong?
Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from?
She looked like a wrong one to you?
It's not as if she were a maniac. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Well, after that lovely intro of Psycho, the original trailer, the Alfred Hitchcock movie in 1960, hopefully that'll wet your whistle for some talk about horror today. Now, you might wonder, well, Yizz, I thought you said you weren't going to be on YouTube anymore. So we're going to start with a little housekeeping here. I made a compromise with myself. YouTube, though definitely evil and used for evil, can also still be used for good, I think. I've decided to do some content for YouTube and not let the 3 years of work I put into this channel fizzle out and be useless. I'm unsure of the exact schedule or pattern that I'm going to have posting stuff here or streaming here, and Discordant Dragons is definitely not going to be on YouTube because this censorious anti-truth site will definitely strike me for doing Discordant Dragons here. Perhaps some Corner Club segments will stream live here, like this one today, and I might do some specific videos just for YouTube. But I'm going to make sure to do at least a couple of things a month here to keep my community and following active and not let this platform go, since I worked really hard on it for 3 years to build up to what I have. My lovely guest today, oh wait, before we get to her, I want to remind everyone, I just put the links in the chat. Entropy is the place to be for chat. So if you want to talk freely, you want to engage with me, use the Entropy link. I put it in the chat and all the channels. It's in the description of the video. You can use the question widget over on the left-hand side to put questions and comments that won't disappear in the chat feed, and I'll be answering and responding to those every 15 to 20 minutes. And of course, paid chats over on Entropy get priority. Speaking of payments and supporting the channel financially, you can support on PayPal, Subscribestar, and Cash App. I also have a Mycelium Wallet, which you can donate to with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as well. Please support the channel. Make this worthwhile, especially with how hard it is for me to find work here in the boonies where I live. Every little dollar that you donate helps. Thank you very much. And without further ado, let me tell you about my wonderful guest today, Proper Horror Show. She is safe on this platform, at least for now. She talks about movies. She loves horror movies. I know little about her other than she's a pleasant mix of delightful and insightful. And I hope to know her more as time goes on, and perhaps even working with her on some movie-related project in the future. So without further ado, let's introduce her. Hello, Proper Horror Show. How are you, my friend?
I'm grand, thanks, Yizz. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being willing to come on. I love your content. You have a fun little community built, and I absolutely adore movies. Watching bad movies, especially bad horror and schlocky sci-fi, has been a lovely pastime of my husband and I for the last 15 years. And we've watched hundreds and hundreds of, well, probably over 1,000 terrible movies now, as well as hundreds of very good movies. So I have a wide breadth of movie experience, and I'm a very harsh critic. So I thought it would be fun for us to have a chat in the future about specifics. But today is all about getting to know you. So with that being said, I've only heard you addressed as Proper Horror Show. Is there something shorter you'd like me to call you, like PH or Chief or something like that?
Well, we could. No one's offered Chief before.
That was just a joke. That was just a joke.
No, you can call me PH. You can call me Chloe. I go by that
Chloe.
on the
Okay,
channel,
I didn't know if you
that's
went by a name or not, but no, Chloe's fine. I'll
Yeah,
do my
that's
best to remember
fine.
that.
No
Well,
worries.
Chloe, the reason I wanted to invite you here today was I love horror and sci-fi, and you, from what I've been able to tell, we have some disagreements over what we like, but as far as qualitatively what you think is good, I think you have a fairly good eye, as my critique would go, and I love your personality and voice. So why don't you start by telling me and my audience what led you to want to make your channel and why you chose horror? And take your time, elaborate as much as you like.
Oh, sure. Well, I like what you said about going back for some of the older movies, maybe the slightly jankier horrors. Like, I think there's a misconception with horror that if you watch horror, you want to be scared. Whereas a lot of the time, I'm watching horror to be deeply ashamed of my terrible, terrible taste in movies. Yeah. But basically, horror is the first genre that I completely loved. And that would be, I think a lot of people go the other way. They go with comedy. And because I think both laughter, like laughing your socks off in the cinema, just howling with laughter is like a really intense, extreme emotion. And being scared, jumping out your seat is that other end of it. It's another really extreme, intense emotion. And when I had a little taste of that, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know film can make me feel this. And the first film that did that was The Omen.
Oh, that's an excellent movie. I like that one.
Yeah. I was young. My parents had a really weird approach to what films I could watch. It was basically the certificate didn't matter at all. It was, did they think it was trashy or not? Now, the Omen got an Oscar, and it had Gregory Peck. So that 18 rating, no one cares about that. You can be 9 years old and you can watch that Omen. Well, and I did, and my mind was blown. And that's basically how I started loving the genre.
Well, to give you a quick synopsis of me and why I love it too, it was also a young experience. I grew up with, let's just call it harsh parenting of people that wanted to teach me to crush my fear, to be self-reliant, hunting and fishing and being forced to learn to swim when I was little and that kind of thing. I say forced, but not like, in an ugly way, just, well, you can walk, you could run, time to learn to swim, so let's get in the pool, like that kind of thing. Not just, throw you in the lake and leave you to fend for yourself. But I loved swimming after they taught me to swim. And in the early 80s, I think it was 82 or 83, I was really little. My dad was like, oh, you love the water? Well, how do you like sharks? And I was a young idiot, so I was like, I guess sharks are cool, because I, of course, only knew the little cartoon sharks and little stickers and stuff. So when I was 4 years old or 5 years old, my dad watched Jaws with me.
Oh my God.
He was like, this is really scary. And he's like, now don't be scared, because it's a fake shark. It's just a robot in a pool in some movie studio. So when I was a little kid, my horrible, abusive father, who is dead, thank God. I'd never liked the man. He was evil to me. But he did give me some good life experiences, and one of them was watching Jaws with me. And I remember being so invested and terrified as a little kid. And I've loved sharks, and I've loved monster movies and scary, voracious, that type of monster and villain in movies, like in everything from a Jason Voorhees to your really awful schlock like Python and Boa versus Python. Anything that has to do with some scary monster that is going to kill the kids at camp or whatever, that's just really fun and feels like family to me. So that's what has made me love horror and sci-fi my whole life. So now that you know a little bit about that with me, how about you tell me what led you to making a channel and why you have a channel about horror?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've liked your takes on horror. Like, we didn't have to agree, but I like the way you talk about it when you're in the chat on the stream. So I appreciate that. As for me, I say I've maybe got a little bit of a creative instinct, and I talk people's ears off about horror. To be honest, it's that area of interest I had, and I was looking around, like I wanted to know what else people were doing. I was fascinated when Red Letter Media did their Plinkett review, and they
I love them. Yeah. I've been watching them for about 8 years now. My husband got onto them early, back before the first Plinkett review came out.
Oh,
and
crikey.
so we got to watch them over the years as they came out and got popular. It was really fun.
Oh yeah, they really revolutionized.
No, I was
how
wrong.
looked at stuff.
11 years ago. God, 2010 is a long time ago now. Jesus.
We gotta stop this whole time thing. It's getting out of hand. But
that's okay.
Yeah,
Being old's fun. Let's be old.
the way they did it, like the somewhat like the perverse angle of we're gonna make a review longer than the film. I kind of love. But so I thought, okay, you know what? I like talking about horror. I've given presentations about horror elsewhere. Why not do a channel? That would be kind of fun. And I looked around at the horror channels, and I'm not going to name any channels. I don't want to shame anyone because they're just doing their thing, and that's fine. But I didn't see any horror channels doing what I wanted to do. I didn't see anyone. How can I say? I didn't see anyone doing the reviews in the depth that I liked, that were sort of talking about the genre as a genre that has, it's got its delightful trash, but it's also got amazing art in there, and horror films that are worthy films. I didn't see that getting talked about, and
so you wanted to fill that void.
Yeah, well, you might have predicted the other thing is that a lot of the time there was a lot of the things they appreciated in horror weren't the things I was appreciating. It was like, finally we're going to have an all-female version of this. Finally we're going to have a diverse version of this, etc., etc. And it's like, if you like that, you can like that.
Speaking of that, let me toss out one of my favorite things Red Letter Media ever did, which is the amazing review of Ghostbusters 2016. I thought that was one of the best things that they ever did, because it's just so scathing and so damning of that terrible, terrible corporate piece of trash. It was just such a great scathing review. And if anybody's listening and hasn't seen the Red Letter Media Plinkett review of Ghostbusters Answer the Call 2016, definitely go check that out after this stream or whenever you can this weekend. It is hilarious. It is wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. And, it trains you to kind of look that level deeper with movies, and sometimes you get something amazing out of that. And yeah, I just thought, let's do that for horror, Maybe it gives all my friends a little break from me talking about it if I can just spread it on the internet.
Yeah. So you started a channel to fill the void, and you've had a channel for about a year now, right?
Yeah, just over a year. Like I still don't feel I know what I'm doing. You probably know that thing, like you're working on your skills, you're working on your style, and you almost feel like, I don't know. I always feel like stuff I did 6 months ago, I'm like, oh no, basic mistakes. But yeah, it's been about a year. I want to redo some projects. I had a thing when I decided I'm gonna try and do this even better. I'm gonna upgrade my rig so I can do some really good videos. And so I did that at the start of this year, and the new expensive rig broke wonderfully for about 8 weeks.
What broke?
As far as I can tell, fans were installed incorrectly, and they toasted the very expensive CPU.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so can you imagine? So
that's horrible.
Yeah, I couldn't do anything for weeks. I just thought, you know what? I'm kind of nervous. I'm kind of a control freak with my vids. But my channel is doing nothing here, and I want it growing. So I started doing streams, and then I got really into the streams, So I started doing that as well. Yeah, it's really nice. It's weird because I really struggle to film things and get the words out there, but I can say the exact same stuff just freehand in a stream. Just because I'm talking to you, I can be a lot more fluid,
I love that. Like I learn from doing and speaking, not from reading and studying. And as the information age grew into what it did, I loved podcasts and internet radio and live streams once that became a thing, because I learn and my mind absorbs and evolves from listening to conversations and people thrusting ideas against each other. And that's why I love streaming. And I can make content okay, but it's a lot of work. And I feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel like it's my bailiwick to do like some of these smarter, more erudite or academic content creators do, where they make these brilliant videos, because I don't think I'm an idiot. I think I'm really smart. I'm just not properly educated, and I have very little academic training, and I have untreated ADHD, so it's really, really hard for me to read dense books and stuff, so I really don't. So I kind of lack a lot of that repertoire in my usual cultural commentary, political, whatever stuff I usually do. So that's why I like streaming and talking to others. And I think about 1 year ago, I decided that, hey, you know what? I'm going to take Corner Club, because Corner Club used to be just me on Fridays speaking in front of the camera for like 20 minutes to an hour about a topic, sort of free form, with either a minimal script of just bullet points or no script at all. And then I would edit it down and post it. And that is the nature of what we're doing today. Is I took it live because I said, you know what? If I get a co-host or I have on regular guests, I think it'll be much more engaging, because not only will I learn stuff from others, but I think that other people will enjoy it more. And Corner Club became pretty popular, and I started getting a lot of views, and so I sort of stuck with it. And that was about a year ago. Kizza was my original co-host. Do you remember Kizza? Was that about a year ago, or was it even longer ago than that? I don't remember. I think it was about a year ago from now. Kizza's here; he'll remember.
That's nice. I'm seeing some good people in the chat. I saw Kizza. I've got Tidge in here.
Tidge, maybe. I put the link in. Yeah, there's Tidge. Howdy, Tidge. Yeah, I put the link over in SFO's server, and I put the link all over the place. That's what I was doing whenever you joined the Restream lobby, as I was sharing it out on all the social media. But speaking of people that we know and people in the chat, we're at the 20-minute mark. So since we only have her for a little over an hour today because of time constraints, we're going to go ahead and do some community engagement. We're going to start over on Entropy, because we already have some financial gifts. We have a wonderful $50 financial gift from the Alabastard. She says, great guest this week. I absolutely love Proper Horror Show's Tuesday stream, although I rarely get to watch it live. Well, I love her Tuesday stream too. Thank you, Wheezy, for supporting the channel and being such a good friend and giving me money to support the channel. I definitely appreciate your financial support. Thank you so much. Mrs. Jess Horst, another champion of white well-being and friend of mine in the white positive activism. Mrs. Jess Horst donates $5, gives us a white heart and a beautiful flame emoji, and says, no white guilt, keep it Promethean. And for those that don't know, keep it Promethean is what we say in the white positive sphere. It's from Jason Kuna's book, Prometheus Rising. Keeping it Promethean means keep it pristine, keep it moral, keep it positive, that kind of thing, and stay focused and be a good example and take the fire of Prometheus to others. So thank you very much, Mrs. Jess Horst. And Kizza in with a joke as we're getting started here. Kizza for $5 says, we're going to need a bigger corner club.
Nicely done.
For those of you that don't know, that's a Jaws reference. He says the Susan Sharks are stalking us. He also said to ask something. Let me scroll up. I asked him to put it over in the question widget, but he didn't. But Kizza wanted me to ask you. He said, do either of us watch Cinema Sins? I don't know Cinema Sins. S-I-N-S. Cinema Sins.
Oh, I can. You know? Yeah, I can talk about that. I used to back in the day. It was kind of refreshing, and then I just went straight out of it, basically. And I think they had a good gimmick, but to be honest, there's no depth to what they do. That was meaner than I intended to say. I'm going to roll that back. They do their thing. It's not intended to be serious. I like serious. I like painful detail. I like making absurd reaching analogies that my co-hosts tell me to stop. And that's
why you joked recently and called yourself pretentious.
I do it every time. I just figured I might as well own it. I'm looking absurdly into depth that sometimes is there, sometimes I may be exaggerating it a little bit, but there's great stuff in horror. I mean, let's take a starting point. Is what's the basis of a horror? It's effectively a morality, right? It's like, guys, there's this dangerous thing, right?
Mhm.
And that's the basis. So like there's ethics in horror that I find fascinating, and I'm like, okay, what's this sort of warning about? Like if we go to Frankenstein, I'm going to go for the really obvious ones. If we go for Frankenstein, that is about disrespecting nature. It's about defying tradition. It's about overreaching and profaning. That's your danger. If you go for Dracula, that's highly debated, but the idea is actually also about chucking off tradition and going in for sort of sexual freedom, globalizing, allowing in all sorts of other influences. That's what Dracula is warning about, etc. And like, I think that's
well, let's get into that in just a moment. I just refreshed all the other donation sites. Nothing new yet on the financial front, but we do have one question for you already, and I'm going to handle that right now before we move on to what you were just talking about, which is the nature of horror and what it means. Kizza GT on the question widget on Entropy says, question to proper horror show. Did you ever watch Nostalgia Critic?
I did. I think surely everyone did back in the day. Again, I'd say it's something I sort of... I think people are maybe a bit too harsh on him, because I think there's often good criticism in what he does. The reason I don't watch him is I think the gimmick is too big, and the film takes a massive backseat, which I'm not a fan of. And I also think the thing I'm not as fond of is approaching something with like layers of ironic armor. I want you to go forward and just say, this film is absolute trash and I had a great time watching it. That's what I want.
I often say stuff like that because I'm fully aware that something can be objectively awful, but I have a great time doing it.
Yeah, but for all the dunking on the guy, he in one way he doesn't bend to the mob, as far as I know. And gosh, what was the other? Yeah, he does actually understand how story works. It's just I don't like the I just think it's much more positive to just be like, I totally enjoyed this, guys. I had a great time. It's not amazing.
Well, I don't know who that is, so we're going to move on for the sake of time since we only have you for an hour today.
Sure.
Now, the meat and potatoes, as they say here in the rural South, which I know you're a fan of our dialect, the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today is, what is horror? And you spoke about it just a moment ago, so I'm gonna to touch on that just to get us started here. To me, horror is a way to express on screen primal things that aren't easy to talk about in other ways. Fear, desperation, the struggles that you're not allowed to talk about openly, psychological horror like Hitchcock, women wanting to murder their husbands, people who want to, or people who are possessed by demons or whatever. They want to, what's a good example? I'm grasping at one, but I can't think of a good example. So I'm just going to speak freeform. Like a family who has a mutant or a devil cursed child, but they love the child, so they have to hide it. That's an excellent metaphor for things that we have to battle in real life. Sometimes in your family, you might have a son, you might have an uncle, you might have a loved sister, and you know that person is an evil, manipulative psychopath, but they're your family and you love them, and you got to struggle with dealing with that. And I think that horror movies, that even though it's often in a schlocky or jokey way, it touches the lizard brain. It engages facets of our experience and our minds that we don't really get to discuss in other ways easily. What do you think about that?
I think you nailed it. And talking about the lizard brain is completely that's so on. Horror is, yeah, exactly. There are ways we negotiate what we fear, and there are also ways we sort of send warnings. Like I think horror is just it's in the same vein as fairy tales, and to an extent.
And fairy tales used to be horror, by the way.
Oh yeah, exactly. They go nasty, and they're carrying basic warnings. John Gorris has got a really good point there. That yeah, the Shape of Water is very Lovecraftian. Lovecraft. Oh, Lovecraft is very relevant today. I did a
Especially
video
the name
about.
of his cat.
I love the meme about if H.P. Lovecraft got a cat girl.
Oh man,
But yeah,
that's great.
so like if you want the reading of H.P. Lovecraft, that's incredible. Part of why, well, he's taboo and he's fascinating is it's not just some of the things he's had in his personal life, but the idea that effectively the world around you is a lie. There are great powers beyond your ken that actually move things. You're insignificant, and you can find the truth out in these forbidden texts. Is like, actually, that's not relevant to today at all. I don't know why I said that, but he's all. I'm just joking. It's all about forbidden knowledge, and I think that's super powerful. But oh gosh, oh yeah, I'm seeing people referencing Reanimator. Yes,
Reanimator's fantastic.
Lovecraft
yes.
classic. Yeah,
Well,
horror is our fears and it's our warnings in there.
Before we get too sidetracked on specific movies, let's stay more to topic here. I'm glad that you agreed with me about what I said about the lizard brain and horror movies being a medium through which we can express darker but still true elements of human experience. When it comes to the types of horror that exist, I mentioned, the magic movie monsters like the Jaws and the Jason Voorhees. And of course, you've got Hitchcock, which is weird, personal, psychological thriller horror. And of course, you've got the stuff that I don't care for, which is the gore stuff, like sadistic, cruel stuff like the Saw movies. That stuff's really gross to me and I don't like it. But these things all touch on things that really push our panic buttons and push our most visceral of DNA. And when it comes to all the different types of horror, would you like to choose one particular facet and explain why it is an excellent medium to talk about things that matter, to talk about things that we should think about and keep in mind? Anything like that come to mind that you'd like to pontificate on, being a horror expert?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we could try. A lot of the older stuff that you mentioned tends to work through metaphor. So let's go with that. And I think let's go with zombies, if you want. So tell me if I'm going way off track here. But we see zombies a lot, right? That's a major genre. And it's not just because zombie films are fairly cheap to make. That obviously, it helps the film get made. But there's a reason we're quite fascinated with zombies, as well as the idea that we struggle with someone dying, someone being gone to us, and it's even worse that they're there in a form that we can't engage with. Like the idea that there's this body going around that isn't the person we loved, and that body is a threat to us. That's the idea, like we can't handle the idea of them dead. That is externalized and made flesh in a zombie. But there's another reading of zombies that I really like. That is the way zombie films tend to work is about people being converted, right? And they form one massive mob of zombies, right? Zombie films always give you a horde, don't they?
Most of them, especially the classic ones, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think that the idea that's working is like our lizard brain watching this film, I think what our lizard brain is seeing is the idea of losing community, like being an outcast.
Yeah, being absorbed by a mob that just wants to consume you. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, because it came about in the 60s and 70s, this concept, and it really exploded in the 80s and 90s when so much of low-budget horror was just zombie attacks and zombies at the mall and all this other stuff. And I think that one of the human fears is loss of identity and loss of self. And I
Yes.
think that's why I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to segue into my usual content, but you know the kind of things that I'm invested in, the kind of things that I support, the kind of things I talk about politically and socially. And I think that the fears that touch our lizard brain are being turned into something that we're not, and what we are being stripped away, because living that way is worse than being just dead. And I think that is a very human element to zombie movies. Whether you like zombie movies or not, I don't personally like zombie movies myself, but I do see that in zombie movies as what the creators sort of get at is, this is worse than death. Because so often you'll see the heroes want to take their own lives or shoot someone before they can become infected if it's inevitable, that kind of thing, because they don't want them to have to go through that, and they view death as better than having no identity and being just a shell of your former self. And I think that is a very potent, powerful thing that outside of movies like The Matrix and some sci-fi, you don't really see a lot of in popcorn movies and general blockbuster type theater movies.
Yeah. In these things, as part of like keeping your identity, the other thing that always happens is that you always get a group of survivors, right, teaming up and just like trying to stay together. It's like, we're keeping our own little group. We're going to be us. We're going to be us. As like you get alienated by effectively a larger group. And that's what the terror is, the idea that you as a person won't exist, and you're trying to fight to hold on to who you are. So I'm with you on that. That's awesome.
Okay, well, let's move on to another genre then, one that speaks to me personally, and we've already had someone poo-pooing it in the chat, which is fine. Everybody has their opinions. I love vampires. Do you like vampires?
I'm fine with vampires. They're not my go-to, so I'm a bit weak on them. But I think
I love
symbolically they're
vampires,
pretty
but I
awesome.
don't like vampire movies. I wanted to talk about that.
Oh, rock on.
For the most part, I don't like vampire movies. I like vampire fiction. I like vampires in role-playing games. I especially like World of Darkness Vampire the Masquerade. I like the way that certain fiction books apply vampirism and what it could be. I like Anne Rice, for example. And before you call me gay and beat me with the Yowie stick, I like it because I think Anne Rice books were interesting. They had interesting characters, interesting dynamics, and it handled vampirism as more than just a movie monster or some ancient curse. It was a storytelling element that embellished both the most passionate, both the good and the evil of humans' greatest passions. And I thought that was really, really good. And when it comes to vampire movies, most of them are a letdown to me. I don't like most of them. Most of them are kind of a joke, or they're just sort of lame and not very good. One of the ones that stands out to me is schlocky, but I really like it. And that's Dracula 2000. Have you seen that?
It's you and me. We're the only people who've seen this movie. That's
great.
That's Gerard Butler, yeah.
I own it. It's on my external hard drive. It's one of the like 1,000 movies that me and my husband have.
Yeah,
and
Gerard Butler, Jerry Ryan.
Yes, Jerry Ryan, Jared Butler. It's a movie where spoilers, of course. I believe that in the movie, I haven't watched it in about 10 years, but I think that the way it goes is the OG Dracula was really Judas Iscariot, and vampirism, the Dracula curse, was because he betrayed the Jesus. Is that right? Isn't that
yes, it is.
Yeah,
I think that's such a balls out like story premise. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was like, man, that's a really cool idea, because if you know about Christian metaphysics, the origin of hell became infinite torment and fire in the classical era, but originally it was knowing that you had fucked up and living in the absence of God's glory was likened unto eternal torment. And so it was hell being Dracula. It was the curse of damnation for forsaking the Christian God, the avatar of the one God. And I thought that was a really excellent movie twist. And I just thought that was a really cool theme for vampirism. I thought it was excellent. And it's a kind of okay movie anyway, but it is kind of B-grade schlock. But I really liked it and thought it was fun.
Oh, totally. It's very schlocky, but you have a good time with it. And I think the conclusion is, you know what? I think this should be the one that we stream about. How about it?
Sure, I would love to do that. Yeah,
I think we got to do that.
Okay.
All right.
I tell you what, that'll be. We can even do a double feature. We can maybe another movie will come to us while we're. Or you know what? Since we talked about it, maybe we could do. If you want to make it a long stream, we could do a Jaws and a Dracula 2000 review. Have a classic OG horror, and then a more modern one.
I can see that working.
But we don't have to. We can talk about that off stream because I know I've only got you for about another 30 minutes, so we're gonna have
cool.
to.
We'll get you on the Tuesday stream. But as for vampires, that's great. So you're already getting it. You don't need me. You're great at doing this.
I told you I'm deep into movies, and I've been a critic for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, you're describing it fantastically. Like,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I thought that we would have a pleasant convo because it felt like we were sort of the same speed when it comes to movie consumption and ideas on movies in general. I thought that we'd be a pretty good mix when it comes to talking about this stuff. So
yeah. I like you're looking deeper at it and looking at what vampires like. Part of the reason I do the channel is to be like, horror movies are worth talking about. Like symbols are important. Like if we stick the other thing on vampires, so like the original Dracula has its own things, but vampires, like they're absolutely addicted to something profane. If they don't suck blood, do something profane, they die. What are they repelled by? Oh, and they're also ancient, so this is like an ancient problem. Basically, it's something that's always going to be with us. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of sunlight, so being exposed. You can't do what they do out in the open, right?
Yeah.
Their sin has to be hidden, so try and be open with it, and you're not going to be able to do it. And of course, the cross.
Yep.
You can draw strength from faith to resist sin and resist temptation.
Speaking of sin, someone already brought it up in chat. What do you think of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola?
Oh, I rewatched it recently because it was such a classic of the time. It's a wild ride, basically.
I love it. I love it, but I know that it has certain flaws. Primarily, Keanu Reeves was fucking terrible. Like, it was a very terrible presentation, terrible job. But the reason I like it, excuse me, the reason I like it is I like Winona Ryder just in general, even though she also didn't have a very strong showing. But I love Gary Oldman. He's like the best. And I thought him as Dracula was just amazing. And the other thing I loved about Bram Stoker's Dracula is it has the elements that we've already talked about, the showing the worst of sin, the best of devotion, because remember what he was before he got turned. Where am I going with this? The reason that I love it so much is the craft of the movie. Now, for those of you that just consume movies and don't really care about the craft, you might not really get why someone like me would really love Bram Stoker's Dracula, which to a viewer might just seem kind of lackluster and weird with some okay visuals here and there. But everything about that movie was handcrafted and shot in frame, which means it had almost no post-production, no CG, no rotoscope. Everything was made with puppetry, with forced perspective, with cutouts, with wind, with different lighting, different filters, different gels. So all of the weird effects, even the storyboard stuff, like writing in the journal, the weird little cutouts and stuff, none of that's a cartoon. None of that is composite shots made in post. It's all shot on one reel with forced perspective. So even the stuff with the things in the background while the guy's writing in the journal, the flames and the pitchforks with the cutouts and stuff, that was all done with visual media storytelling in camera, which means they had all of that actively going, and Francis Ford Coppola captured that, all the puppets, all the lights, all the little cutouts and stuff. He captured it in frame. And to me, that is one of the, like, when it comes to the guts of a movie and the actual craft of making a movie, that's in my top 5 best crafted, most artistic, well-made movies of all time. And I wanted to bring that up with you and see what you thought about that, or if you had as much knowledge about it or had an opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't. How can I say it? I enjoy it. I don't rate it as highly, but I really respect it, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I absolutely adore that they did so much with the physical effects. Like the monster transformations look gorgeous.
Yes.
They really they leaned really heavily on like the sexual allegory in there, which is kind of fine. That goes with Bram Stoker a lot. With Dracula a lot. Bram Stoker was very concerned with like sexual impropriety, so he was a big anti-porn campaigner back in the day.
Based.
Oh, absolutely.
Based. Porn is cancer. Get rid of it.
Yeah, so he has Dracula come in as a sort of sultry seducer of women, leading them off the path, and that's all in Dracula. That isn't, I think, more than any other vampire movie. But I also like some of the weird touches that Francis Ford Coppola brings in, like Dracula's castle looking like a Klimt painting.
Oh yeah,
and Dracula wearing these. Is it a kimono? It's of that nature.
The reason that movie has weird wardrobe and really memorable style is, I don't know what her actual role was, but one of the primary creators of the visuals of the movie. I don't know if she was primarily a costumer or what, because I don't know much about it, and this is just me remembering the commentary on it from 20 years ago. I think that she was Japanese, but it was an Asian lady of some ethnicity.
She was Japanese, yeah.
That was into visual design and didn't know fuck all about the Dracula story. And I think Francis Ford Coppola or somebody knew her and was like, hey, I think she'd be really good for this. And so they got her to design most of the shit in the movie, and that's why things look so interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean, it helps, doesn't it? You get these.
Very, very cool.
It doesn't look like any other vampire thing. So, since you said you liked Anne Rice earlier, what did you think of Interview with the Vampire?
I thought it was good. I don't rank it as highly for my personal enjoyment as I do, let's say, Bram Stoker's or Dracula 2000. But qualitatively, it's probably superior to both of those. Definitely superior to Dracula 2000. The acting is really high. It drags on in places, but I mean, any movie that tries to stay loyal to a novel as much as that one did, or the spirit of a novel is a better way to put that with Anne Rice, it's going to drag in places and be a little long in the tooth. But as far as the major beats of the story, I thought it was okay. Go ahead. What?
Was long in the tooth deliberate?
Yes. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I'm rather punny.
Oh, I love it. I appreciate the puns as well. Frankly, if my co-hosts don't groan, I've been lazy. You know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll save long in the tooth for your stream. Hopefully I'll surprise your viewers with it and they'll cringe at me.
Oh, please do. That'd be brilliant.
Okay. Well, let's move to our second community segment, because we've only got one more to go. I'm going to remind everyone again, for the constraints of time, I won't be putting the links in the chat, but you can support me financially with Entropy with paid chats. I definitely appreciate that. Those get priority on the show. You have another 20-minute segment before we're out of here, so be sure to get your paid chats in on Entropy, Subscribestar, PayPal, and Cash App. I'm going to refresh all of those right now, and we're going to see if we have anything in the paid chat variety, any questions for you or me, or just comments about the subject matter. Okay, nothing showing up on Subscribestar or Cash App, and PayPal finally refreshed. We don't have anything new over there. Over on DLive, we have K-Baka donating a diamond on DLive and says, hey, Yizz. Well, howdy, friend. Good to have you here. And on Entropy, we have Kizza GT says, Dracula to him will always be Christopher Lee. R.I.P., the greatest villain actor to ever live. And yes, let's all pour one out for Christopher Lee and his amazing contribution to movies in general, but especially horror.
Oh, fantastic choice. Horror of Dracula is so good.
It's wonderful.
I don't know if you've seen it, but do you know Curse of Frankenstein? I think it was his first Hammer.
I don't know if I've seen that. My husband and I went through a Hammer film and other non-Hammer classic horror film phase where we watched like 30 or 40 movies between the 60s and late 70s. And I think that's one of the ones that we saw, because we saw like a dozen Christopher Lee movies in that period. But I couldn't conjure anything about it at the moment.
Oh, don't worry. It's from 1957. It's way back.
Oh, it's an early one. Okay.
It's based. It's absolutely based. I highly recommend it.
Well, maybe we'll watch that together one day. That'd be great.
Nice. Yeah.
Or at least review it together. I don't mean live watch it together, but whatever. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it doesn't
doing
seem
that
like we have.
you're in now. Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, it doesn't seem like we have any other paid donations or community chat messages. But I do want to read one thing on Entropy that Alabastard said. Is she loved Bram Stoker's Dracula and really enjoyed the love story aspect of it. It was neat, she says. And yes, it's oftentimes you will see different twists on various love, lust, or just fascination, fetishization of different types of human physiognomy or sexuality in vampire stories. And I like that too, because the viscerality of lust and being lusting after someone is tied to the thirst of the kindred. It's tied to needing the blood. And so it's a good way to, again, like we talked about earlier on, to bring out those unpleasant to talk about base carnal desires of the lizard brain. And you definitely see a lot of that along the lust and sex variety with vampire films. So with that being said, we're moving into the final segment now, since we only have her for a little over an hour today. And now the final segment is going to be, what do you want to talk about and what do you want to leave my viewers with? For the next 10 or 15 minutes, let's talk about if there's one thing that you want people to know about your channel, and let's also talk about the one thing that you would like to share with others about horror movies and the horror genre itself. Let's talk about those two things. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you talk about that as much as you like for the last segment here.
Oh, no problem. This is a part of the stream where my brain absolutely empties out and I completely forgot what I was going to say. But you might have to be forgiving of me here. So, what do I want people to know about the channel? And is there a particular thing I want to talk about? Is that right?
Yes, or just this is the last segment of Corner Club. It's just whatever my guest wants to talk about, and I figured I would, since we're short on time, I figured I would lead you with a couple of pointers. But this last part of the show, just talk about whatever you would like our audience to hear and whatever you'd like me to know about or talk about.
Okay, yeah, that's absolutely cool. Thank you for. Sorry, I get up early to feed chickens and let them out, and so
I used to keep chickens too. Once we buy a new house and get settled again after what we've had to do, we're going to have chickens again too.
Oh, nice. That's brilliant. All right, so what do I want to say? Well, just about the channel, I guess. The thing I'm doing at the moment is I'm doing a nice free-flowing live stream on Tuesdays. I do a topic where I've done a bit of research about the horror community or horror genre, because what I like to do is like bring out little facets and tidbits of information, like build up knowledge about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is incredibly hit and miss. Trailer watching, people love. History of the British film classification, that's a harder sell to people. But gosh darn it, you need to learn your history.
Yeah.
And I like to say, I think of it as like it's a salad to start, and then it's all dessert afterwards, because the majority of the stream is like a deep film analysis.
I've listened to 3 so far, and they are lovely. I put her link to her channel in all the chats. Definitely subscribe to her. Check out her Tuesday live streams. And I'm sure that there will be more great work up ahead in her channel. And let's help her get to 1,000 subscribers. She's getting close, so let's help her hit it.
Oh, thank you. I'd appreciate. Yeah, that has been a slow, painful journey on YouTube. But what can I say? I think there are ways you can play it so you get promoted very easily. But I didn't fancy doing that, because I guess I look a lot at older horror because it. How can I say it doesn't have the same messaging. It's not got the same influencing that we have now. Mm-hmm. And also a sort of, yeah, I don't like a lot of the CGI stuff as much. I like physical, practical effects.
So do I. I think that
Yeah.
CG is a cancerous blight upon the craft, and I always hated it. If you can use CG to make something that looks as good as, let's say, the first Jurassic Park, then CG is almost tolerable. But in almost every other situation, I absolutely loathe it and think it's just terrible. Like, I would rather things look like the original Star Wars and the original Battlestar Galactica than the flashiest and the brightest of like the modern Star Trek movies that J.J. Abrams did. Like, yeah, it's flashy and it's cool. Or let's look at the prequels and the Disney Star Wars films. It's big and it's flashy and it's like, yeah, but I know it's all fake. This is just 1,000 Asians being chained to a desk and making this shit happen over a year. Like, this is not it. That's not craft to me. That's not movie craft to me. So I mean, maybe I'm old and bigoted, which, I mean, I know that's a fair judgment that people lay on me for other things. But when it comes to movies, I feel like it is definitely a step away from the real craft, making visual effects heavily CG.
Oh yeah, I mean, you must have the same as me. You've watched movies and you've seen, how excited have you been when you've seen names like Dick Smith, Tom Savini, Rob Bottin? You're just
and he came up earlier, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee, yeah. Well, all the guys who are like your special effects supremos. I mean, is there another genre where people have watched a film just because of the makeup artist?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not talking about famous
no,
actors and
no,
creators.
okay.
You're talking about the effects artists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Tom Savini
I can't name any.
as well.
I can't name any. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, it's fine. It's a unique thing with horror, isn't it? It's a sell, and you think that craft that goes into it is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw actually John Gorris in the chat just named the E. Michael Jones book, which I think is Monsters from the Id. And,
I don't know that one.
Well, I had it raised to me by Radlib, and oh, by the way, I just thought that was such a gamble. I liked Radlib's economics, and I like people talking about stuff that's outside their usual sphere.
Oh yeah, and he has a wonderful segment with his wife talking about homeschooling because they have 8 kids. Like, they have a wonderful. Inspiring. Yeah, because I think we should all homeschool now because of the things that I don't want to talk about because Susan will hit me with the band hammer again.
Oh, I'm set on it. I want to do it myself. I think it's. I don't know. I'm sure it's doable. It's something I want to do. But yeah, I got him on, and I just thought it was a random gamble. Would he even want to talk horror? And he was up for it. And he referenced E. Michael Jones' book Monsters from the Id, which I am going to read, so I understand it fully. But I want to do a thing where I talk about 3 big ways of interpreting horror, like some of the big lens. So E. Michael Jones talks about kind of like what we've done unprompted here, is he talks about horror is our way of dealing with, say, unspeakable issues. Mm-hmm. So things we don't want to do. So a lot of the modern stuff, like issues we have in society, are converted to be acceptable horror metaphors. So the example I would give you is like slasher killers going around the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's much, or killer clowns in the neighborhood. That idea is like, this is happening in our neighborhood now because generally we're feeling less safe, less secure in society, and we don't trust our neighbors as much. This is a big difference from the 60s horror films, broadly speaking, where your horror is happening far away and it's not a crazy dude, it's a monstrous creature.
Yeah, it's like
the reality.
The British archaeologists unearthed the mummy in Egypt or whatever.
Yes. Safe and metaphorical.
Yes.
So that's E. Michael Jones. But there's a counter one, and because it's live streaming, I've forgotten the third. But the second one is the feminist lens, which I'm going to get a book with the unbeatable title Men, Women and Chainsaws.
Which is a pretty fun title.
Yeah, the feminist interpretation of horror is quite interesting because they're the broad strokes of this, and you can get a quick version of this if you watch a film called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. That idea is the masked killer, the slasher, with his great big weapon, is all about getting the female to surrender, and it's all about men wanting to sexually possess women. So
I'm sure that's a common theme in more than a few movies.
Yeah, like I say, it's an interesting interpretation. I wish I could remember for the life of me what the third one was, but never mind. I have an interesting one on the torture movies, if you don't mind.
Sure,
I know
we'll
you're
wrap
not a
up
fan
with
of
that
them.
because we're at the hour mark. So let's wrap up with that, and then we'll say our goodbyes and we'll get out of here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to quickly say thank you to Veraldo Ancodini for naming one of my absolute favourites, In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, that is a great one, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, similar to what I just said about we have...
I think Innsmouth is my personal favourite, though. I love Innsmouth.
I haven't seen it. Ooh, I need to do that.
No, I meant Lovecraft's story.
Oh, okay, good.
There have been a few movies that are... Well, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that off because there are a few movies that we could watch together around that genre, but we'll talk about that later. But
no, I wish I had time. So if we hopefully we'll do this another time, and then we can.
We can talk off screen sometime. It's cool.
Nice. So developing the idea, like, we got slasher movies in environments that were very much like neighborhoods we lived in, because basically we're not feeling secure in society anymore. Society's not so safe. I look at the torture movies, the Saw stuff. They, to me, seem like a lot more about our idea of general trust in society is broken down. Like, I think we're getting those because the idea is, however much we think we've progressed, ultimately someone can overpower you, get you in the chair, and you're at their mercy. It's that idea that you can be saying, no, but the law, but my rights, no, you can't do this. Yeah. And this person just has total power over you. So I think that's a root of it. It's really about the idea of society breaking down and working suddenly back down on just a power level. That's why I think those movies are massive at the moment.
I think so too, and I think that sort of going all the way back to The Matrix and even overdrawn at the memory bank, for the last 30 or so years, you have seen a definite increase in the failing of transhumanism, the crushing weight of dystopia of this, soulless corporate age that we've entered. You've started to see that kind of fiction become mainstream, and I think that definitely culminated in horror with things like with the Saw movies. But with that being said, we have just hit the 1 hour mark, so we're going to start saying our goodbyes here to our lovely guest. And you said Chloe is what I call you?
Yeah,
Zoe?
yeah, absolutely. Chloe.
Okay. Well, Chloe, thank you for being here with us today. I would love to continue talking with you. You're someone who definitely seems like you're in my bailiwick of many different things. So I'm glad that we've made contact here. I will definitely have you on to talk about movie films and other Susan-approved topics another day on this YouTube channel, as well as all the rest of my channels. And going forward, I will definitely let all of my followers know when I'm going to be on streams with you. So that being said, let's look at chat one last time. It doesn't seem like we have any other paid donation chats, but I'm going to refresh everything one last time here. And
I'm seeing chat has good taste.
Yes, chat does seem to have good taste, and we'll definitely be talking about those. Just because I like to give paid donation chat priority, and I make sure I don't miss any. And I haven't. We don't have any new ones, so they all came at the first today, which is fine. No complaints. Let's address what Crominion said. I don't have anything in my memory of Prince of Darkness, but I know I've seen it because I watched the entirety of Donald Pleasance's library once, so I know that I've seen that one. When it comes to the older one, I think Changeling is the early 80s, the one with George C. Scott. I like that one. That was sort of a creepy psychological horror about, wasn't it ghost possession or spiritual transference or something like that?
I haven't seen The Changeling. It's been on my list for a while, but I saw Prince of Darkness a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought that was amazing, and it's one of the ones that I want to do like a proper deep dive, fully edited video on, because it
Okay,
seems to
good.
me that movie is made for right now, where so many of us are, where we're basically post-rational. You know,
Uh-huh.
we've done the big rationalism application of pure logic to everything, and then you're a bit like, okay, I'm still in the real world. Oh, where people don't behave like a perfect rational paradigm. Oh dear. Oops. And you have to start looking at sort of post-rational things, look to other sources, look back at tradition, think how we got that, etc.
Yeah.
I think Prince of Darkness is absolutely marinated in that stuff.
I don't have any opinion because I barely remember it because I watch so many, and also I have a bad memory. I forget things really bad, so I'll watch something and then I will completely forget it, and it's almost like a new movie to me a year later. So anything that we're going to do and talk about on your stream, I'll definitely watch right beforehand, so it's fresh in my memory.
It's
But,
funny you say that. I'm the absolute inverse. My memory is absolutely terrible for pretty much anything that isn't movies and recipes. And I'm one of those people, like, people have to introduce themselves about 10 times. It's embarrassing.
Well, let's end on that embarrassing note. And
no. No,
I'm just
gonna say
teasing you,
something
Chloe.
cool now.
No, I'm just teasing you. I've had a wonderful time with you today. It's been really fun. I hope that you all enjoyed this refreshing, hopefully white pilling conversation about something that we can all enjoy, which is movies, and especially older movies, back before everything was. Or back before things changed dramatically in the zeitgeist of entertainment. But that being said, definitely subscribe to Proper Horror Show. I will put the link in the description again. Let me dig it up here. There it is. And remember that I do not stream regularly on YouTube anymore, and I barely upload any content to it. So I put the link in the chat to my linked tree. That has the links to all my social media, so you should follow me on at least one to make sure you always get updates and notifications when I do streams and when I post content. And you can also catch my weekly Dragons of Discord, Discordant Dragons. That's on Monday nights, and that's where we do a mix of role-playing, a mix of cultural commentary, and, of course, comedic improv. And in doing so, I think that we have a good time, and it's a good sort of fusion of different show ideas. That's on Monday nights. And here we go. I finally found that link again. So I put that in the chat for everybody. Definitely help her get to 1,000 subscribers. She's getting close, and her chats are wonderful. And I will be on there soon. So that's another reason to follow her if you like me. So go and do. And be sure to click the bell and all that good stuff too. So thank you all for being here today. It was a wonderful time. Short stream today because of time constraints for my guest, and I have a lot of work to do this evening. I'm going to be busy, so even though usually I go over to either someone else's stream at the end of my streams, and on Fridays that's usually going to the cigar stream on AA's channel. Unfortunately, I can't go there today because I have too much work to do. So you guys enjoy the cigar stream tonight. But thank you for being here with me today, Chloe. And we will definitely be doing stuff together in the future. So like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff to both my channel and to hers. And tune in Monday, not on YouTube, but everywhere else for Discordant Dragons. And stay tuned for more Susan-approved content coming to my YouTube channel in the near future. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, Tidge. And we will see you guys Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.